first thing I want to say is that we work with some of the top teams in the country, in high school and college. We work with Iowa State, University of Michigan, Maryland, Rutgers, UPenn, plenty of teams, all right? And before every practice, they're going through these things. Before every practice and after every practice, these 4 principles. Because we see a lot of wrestlers, and this is not just wrestling, but in general. If you can master these 4 principles, you're in a good place. You're going to probably succeed mentally. So I'm going to go through them real quick. The first one is I'm thankful for the opportunity to wrestle. Sounds so simple. I'm thankful for the opportunity to wrestle. But you know what? You're very lucky to have a healthy body. You're very lucky to have a healthy mind, or a relatively healthy body and mind, that you can compete. You go to any local hospital here, there's people who don't have the opportunity. Not the opportunity, forget about wrestling, but maybe the opportunity to walk, or the opportunity to see, or anything like that. So be thankful. You got to be thankful. We saw Cael Sanderson and Kyle Dake you know they are. Both 4-time NCAA champs, 3 of the 4 4-time NCAA champs. Both of them spoke at the Pennsylvania Coaches Convention. The same first topic. You got to love the sport of wrestling. It's got to be fun. It's got to be something you're passionate about. Okay, so it doesn't mean you're laughing all the time or smiling, but you're thankful for the opportunity to wrestle. So that's number 1. Okay. Number 2, I'm aggressive and relentless. You look at the best wrestlers; they're imposing their will on their opponents. Okay, when Cael Sanderson won the wrestling the World Championships, he came back a few years ago, and he wrestled the Azerbaijani, the guy who won the whole thing. Okay, he took that guy down within the first 5 or 10 seconds of the match. So, is he a guy who is waiting to see? You know, sometimes we wrestle conservative. We wait and see. We hold back. We feel the other guy out. You know, well, Cael was imposing his will. So that's what you got to do. You got to impose your will right away from the beginning of the match and throughout the match. All right, number 3. Oh, I went out of order here, okay? So number 2, we're back to here. I have no fear of losing or making mistakes. And that's a big one. That's where most of us fall into the trap. Successful wrestlers, successful athletes, hate to lose. Okay? So if you hate to lose, you're in good hands. But you can't be afraid to lose. You can't be afraid to make mistakes. That's what separates people mentally. That, yeah, I hate to lose, but I'm willing to put it on the line. You have to have the willingness to put it on the line. And that's really anything we're talking about. You have to be willing to put it on the line in a match. You have to be willing to put it on the line in the classroom. Maybe you don't do as well in a certain class because you're taking a certain class, but you're putting it on the line in the class. You go up to that pretty girl, you don't know what she's going to say, but you put it out there. But it's having that willingness to fail. You have to have the willingness to fail. You could hate failure, but you got to be able to push through it. One of the things I like to do, studying the great warriors of all time. Spartans, samurais, Aztecs, they have one thing in common. They're not afraid to die. Not afraid to die in war. Think about how powerful that is. Those people, now wrestling, I know we say we're going to war, but the reality is, worst case scenario, you lose. You're embarrassed, you're upset, maybe you cry a little. You live to fight another day. All right? Spartans, samurais, Aztecs, they die. They're probably going to die a painful death, and that's it for them. Okay, so if they could overcome that fear of death, we could overcome that fear of losing. And then finally, I never ever give up. I could have just said I never give up, but I wanted to really drive that point home, so we added an ever in there. I never ever give up. You can't. And that means, and that's just not, in the match where sometimes you just, there's sometimes we lay on the mat and we're like, that's it, I'm done for today. I'm not even talking about that, but those little moments in the match where we quit a little bit. Guy takes us down, reverses us, and we're laying flat before we start moving back up. You know what I mean? We get discouraged for even 5 seconds in the match. That's giving up a little bit. Can't do it. There's no place for it. No place for it. And the same thing when you're beating a guy by, point 1 to 4 points. There's a minute left in the match, and we start pumping the brakes a little. You guys know what I mean? We're winning by a little. We don't want to lose the match now, so we start just circling and kind of stalling. Instead, if you keep going, you keep scoring and scoring, and eventually the opponent breaks, and then once he breaks, you stick him in the ground. You step right on his throat. You have to have that kind of killer instinct when you're wrestling. You take the match, then you got to take his heart. So that's what we're talking about. Never ever giving up, no matter what position you're in. Okay, so I strongly recommend you go through this before and after every practice as a team, because you want to get it. That's the culture here. At St. Peter's, these are the philosophies that you want to believe in, along with any other philosophies the team may have. But you look at the military, you look at martial arts, they have their creed up in their dojo. Right? And they say that as a group before every time they work out. So that's key. If they're doing it, if other people who are successful are doing it, why don't we do it? Let's use what works. That's why the military does this stuff. They beat these messages in their heads. Mental reps. You got to get mental reps. You get technical reps. You get strength reps. Why are we not going to get our mindset reps? All right, so on our feet. Let's go through this. Then we'll sit down and we'll go through our mindset worksheet, our mindset checklist. On your feet. Going through.